Hey guys, so today we're gonna start improving our testing suite, and I think the first thing I want to do is create a environment variable for our test database. So it's gonna be called Mongo URI test, and it's gonna be similar to our Mongo URI. So localhost slash, and then I'm gonna name it nest test. Um, a word of warning: be careful with underscores because I believe Mongoose is a little buggy with database names with underscores in it. Because I had a weird problem earlier where we just wouldn't clear the database. But yeah, and then also while I'm here, I'm gonna define our port, and it's gonna be 3000, which is what we've been using. So with that, we could now access our environment variables inside of our main.ts. And I'm just gonna add a if statement before we run our bootstrap function. And what's in here? So we're gonna check our node environment, process.env.node_env, and we're gonna test if it is test. If it is, then we're gonna reassign our Mongo URI to our Mongo URI test, which is what we just defined. And then also, I'm gonna do a console log here to say testing in process. So we have an indicator that we know we're running our test server. And if you want to make it like really, is the caps lock on? Alright. Really apparent, you just add a bunch of dashes, so it's a lot harder to miss. So that's done. The next thing we need to do is update our package.json. So when we run start dev, we set our node environment to dev, and then we add a script called start test, where we set the node environment to test. All right. And then next, I wanted to add a logging service into our shared folder, or shared module. So I'm just gonna do that right now. This is so that when our server is running, every route that is hit, we can actually see it in the server logs. Because since we're doing asynchronous tasks over our testing suite, it would be useful to know that it's going in the order that we expect it to be, which is not always a guarantee with concurrency and stuff. So we need to make the file, which is what we're going to do. So it is called source shared logging.interceptor.ts. And let's open that up. Alright, so it's a service, so it's going to be an injectable. Export class logging interceptor. Alright, I wish that was easier to spell. Alright, and then it's going to be implements, so polymorphism. Once again, it's a nest interceptor. Alright, let's see, so this interface just means that we need an intercept function, and it's going to return an observable. And let's see, the observable is, let's just do any for now. I believe it's actually of type void, maybe? I'm not sure. But anyways, intercept takes in two parameters. So context, which is the execution context, which we've been using a lot. Execution context. And then we also have the call method, which is an observable. observable, and I don't actually know what type it is, but it's the stream that is returned when a thing is called. I wish I had a better technical answer for that, but the wording escapes me. So first we're gonna do the thing that we always do. So we're gonna pull out the request object from the execution context. So context dot switch to HTTP dot get request, and from that we can get the method, which I'm just gonna destructure from request object, and we're also gonna get the URL. So we're gonna return an observable. We're gonna add a observable pipeline to it, and we're gonna be using the tap function, which comes from RxJS. Alright, I'm not gonna find it. So, oops. I'm just gonna import it directly. Tap from RxJS / operator. Yeah, operators plural. And the tap function is gonna be so tap basically means do this thing. So it doesn't return anything, it's just gonna do a thing. And I'm gonna use the logger service from NestJS .log. Alright, so method space URL, and I guess I'll add a date. So date.now minus now, which we're gonna have to define, and then context dot get class name. Alright, so we need another variable called now, which is just another date.now. Alright, so just to go over quickly, so this now represents the time it is before the request is finished, and then this now represents the time after the request is finished, so when the client gets it on the API side. That looks good. So if we start the server, and we're gonna start the test server so that we can see the this indicator that it's using the test database. And if we just hit a route, which I'm just gonna use our ETL script, we'll see that's well, that's strange. Let's just edit this. So I'm just gonna do the get. Oh, that's a register. What? Let's do this. So I just want to do the get, and I also want to get rid of this console log. So in here, get rid of that, and let's see. I want to comment these 3 lines. Alright, so let's run the job. We should get a thing. Oh, right. The last thing I need to do with this interceptor is actually import it in, which I forgot to do. So in here, we're going to add another custom provider where we provide app interceptor, and we're going to use the class that we just created. So use class logging interceptor. There we go. And now, if we run the script, we should get a thing. No, we don't. Maybe it actually has to hit. So let's just comment this out again and do this. Comment this out so there's no errors. I don't want to do another register, so I'm going to do a login. So we get the thing, which is correct, and we have post auth login. So that's what the interceptor does, and this will help us with testing so that we know that each of our tests has been run and hit and all of that. Okay, so that's out of the way. We set the environments, so that's good. And I believe I went over this, which is good. I'm also gonna change this to go away. Let's just do npm run test end to end. So then we just do yarn test instead of yarn test e2e. And yeah, so the next thing we're gonna do is separate this out a little bit. So right now this file is getting really long, and I want to start separating each part of the end-to-end test. So the root should live in its own file, and auth should also live in its own file. So we're gonna do that. So I'm actually just gonna do this. So D, and then in here, touch, source. Actually, let me do that. Save. I'm gonna rename this. Move test slash app end to end to test slash auth dot end to end spec.ts, and then also remake test slash app. Excuse me, that was weird. Spec.ts, and now we have a new thing, and I'm just gonna take this. So not yank, but cut, paste. All right. Let's make sure we import all of our stuff. It's not const. Import star as request from supertest, and then now app doesn't exist, so we need to make another file. So touch test constants.ts, and this is where we're gonna have all of our test constants, which app would be one of them. So export const app equals to, and we use the template string, http//localhost process.env.port, and of course, since we're using environment variables, we need to be able to we need to add in .env. So .env/config. That should work. And here we just need to add the app from /constants. And I don't know if I need .env in here, but it doesn't hurt, so why not? And then our auth tests are completely separate. So we just do a yarn test. We should run the end-to-end tests, and everything passes. There's the console log, which I was not expecting. Where's the console log? Oh, here it is. All right, let's get rid of that. And let's run it again, because I think I still want all the test descriptions, so we're going to add one last thing to our script, and it's going to be to this one. And I'm going to add the verbose function, or verbose option, so that we get all the test descriptions. So this is basically what I'm talking about. So these and this here. All right. So what is next? I don't remember. This is good. This is good. This one. All right. So this line no longer exists, so I'm gonna get rid of that. Instead, we're using app from our constants file. And now we could also reuse these things. So I'm just going to pull this all the way to the top. Oh, there. So this user register detail could be used in all of these cases. So I could kind of slim down the test cases. User is also a login. So I guess I could just do this. Save. I want a space here. And now we can start writing more tests. That looks good, I believe. Oh, there's a typo here. Okay. So now we need two more objects that we're gonna create. I am looking at the wrong reference file. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Oh, there's a lot of stuff in here. So we're gonna make more tests. This time we're gonna test our sellers. So we need two objects: the seller register object, which is a register detail with username, and I'm gonna use seller this time. Password is gonna be password, and seller is gonna be true. Now this is supposed to work because our register detail, if you remember, it has seller and address, because when a user is registering, they have the option to set the seller and address. So we could use that to our advantage. But then the login detail is only username and password, so that's why we need another object here. So seller login. Username, seller, password is password. Alright, and then I'm going to have two let variables here for the user token. Seller token, which we're going to use later when we have authentication routes to test against. It's going to be a string, and that's going to be a string. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is it should register seller. And I'm just going to copy this entire thing. Oh, that's right. Okay. There we go. And we're going to change a couple things around. So this is going to be, we're expecting it to return back the seller object. which means we're sending in the seller register object. And we also want to expect body.user.seller to be a truthy value. And we also want this one to be body.user.seller to be falsy. Okay, so we could register user, we could register seller. It should reject a duplicate registration. We don't need to redo this one. It should log in user, and it should log in seller. Return request app. Once again, I can just copy and paste, so I'm going to do that actually. So v86g down yank p. Okay, I need to get better at Vim, so I should start practicing. So created. This time we're gonna send in the seller login. We're expecting this to be seller. Expect body.user.seller to be truthy. Then once again, we're gonna add that in here. Body.user.seller to be falsy. And also, while we're both in here, we're gonna define our token equal to body.token. This is the user token, and this is the seller token. All right, cool. Let's see. Yeah, I don't really want to test authorization quite yet, mostly because the only route that we have is this use guard, and it's actually going to go away now that we have our testing suite applied. So yeah, I'm just going to delete this now. So X. All right. Okay. And also get rid of it in our auth service. No, not auth service. Our user service. Kind of regret putting it in here, but okay, I get it. I can't backspace after I do that. Oh my god. Whatever, just save. So let's test it once again. Yarn test, and we got the ping. We have all the auth tests working correctly. Register user, register seller, login user, login seller, and also this rejection, which is pretty important. Okay, cool. So I guess we can finally start doing CRUD, right? So that's what we're gonna do in the next video, and I'll see you guys next time. Pretty sure I feel like I missed something, but I think that's good.